Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I started as a busboy when I was 18, worked my way up to server, and honestly became pretty good at it. The money wasn't amazing, but the tips were decent, and I liked the fast-paced environment. Plus, I had built up a solid reputation with the regulars. Some customers would even ask to sit in my section. The restaurant itself was one of those family-owned places that tried to act bigger than it was. The owner had bought it about 5 years ago and was always stressed about everything. He had this habit of micromanaging everyone while simultaneously being completely absent when you actually needed him. The manager was more laid back, which made the job bearable most days. I had never called out sick, never been late, and always picked up extra shifts when they needed help. My Google reviews were solid too. People would mention me by name talking about how I made their dining experience great. I took pride in that. It felt good knowing I was making a difference, even if it was just bringing someone their food with a smile. So when I needed to get my Tuesday morning shift covered, I didn't think it would be a big deal. I had plans with my girlfriend that I really didn't want to cancel. We've been trying to coordinate our schedules for weeks to spend some quality time together. I found my manager in the back office on Monday night doing paperwork. I asked him if there was any chance I could get someone to cover my morning shift the next day. He told me it wouldn't be a problem at all. He explained that the new girl was coming in to train anyway, and Tuesday lunch was usually pretty slow, so they'd have plenty of servers on the floor. I double-checked to make sure I wouldn't be leaving them hanging, and he reassured me that it was totally fine and I should enjoy my day off. That was it. Simple, straightforward, no drama. I thanked him and left feeling good about having Tuesday free. Tuesday came and went perfectly. I spent the morning with my girlfriend. We grabbed breakfast at this little cafe downtown, walked around the park, just enjoyed each other's company. It was exactly what I needed. Then Wednesday morning happened. I was still in bed when my phone buzzed with a text from the owner. The guy never texted anyone unless something was seriously wrong. His message asked why I didn't show up yesterday. I stared at the message for a minute, confused. I texted back explaining exactly what happened with the manager. My phone rang immediately. The owner was furious, yelling that the new girl wasn't a real server yet and couldn't take orders or handle tables on her own. I tried to explain that I didn't know that and the manager had said it was fine, but he cut me off saying I should have found another waiter to cover for me. The way he saw it, I had missed my shift without proper coverage. When I tried to point out that the manager had approved it, he said that didn't matter. Then he told me I was suspended for a week. I sat there holding the phone, completely stunned. This was the same owner who had praised my work ethic just last month. The same guy who had given me a raise because customers kept complimenting me. I simply told him all right, and that I'd see him in a week. And that was that. No arguing, no pleading my case. What was the point? He had already made up his mind. You know what, though? After the initial shock wore off, I realized something. I was exhausted. I had been working 6 days a week for months, picking up extra shifts, staying late when needed. I couldn't remember the last time I had a real break, so I embraced it. I slept until noon every day. I caught up on movies I've been meaning to watch. I went to the disc golf course with my buddies and actually had time to play a full round without rushing back to work. I spent entire afternoons with my girlfriend without checking my phone every 5 minutes to see if work needed me. It was incredible. For the first time in years, I felt completely relaxed. Friday night, I was at dinner with my girlfriend when my phone started ringing. The owner's number flashed on the screen. When I answered, he immediately said he needed me to come in that night. He explained they were completely swamped and short-staffed. I reminded him that I was still suspended. He acknowledged that, but said they were desperate. He told me the dishwasher was trying to take orders because they didn't have enough servers. I told him it sounded rough. Then he asked if I could come in for Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday morning. I looked across the table at my girlfriend, who was trying not to laugh. I told him I didn't think I had learned my lesson yet and probably shouldn't come in. He asked what I meant. I explained that he had suspended me to teach me a lesson about responsibility, and I didn't feel like I had learned it yet. There was a long pause before he asked if I was serious. I told him I was completely serious and thought I needed the full week to really understand what I did wrong. He said they really needed me, but I apologized and said I couldn't do it. I hung up and went back to my dinner. The calls kept coming all weekend. Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, Sunday morning. Each time I gave the same response. I hadn't learned my lesson yet. When I walked back into work the following Tuesday, it was like I was a completely different person in their eyes. The manager who had approved my time off was suddenly very friendly, asking how my week was and if I needed anything. The other servers were treating me with this weird respect I'd never experienced before. Even the owner was different. He didn't apologize exactly, but he was definitely more careful about how he spoke to me. No more snapping or making demands. My schedule got better. Suddenly, I was getting the prime weekend shifts. The busy Friday nights, where the tips were best. Other servers started asking me to cover their shifts instead of the other way around. It's been 3 months since my suspension, and things are still great. I own a pickup truck. It's nothing fancy, a 15-year-old Ford that's seen better days, but it runs and it's reliable. The paint's faded and there's a dent in the tailgate from when my brother borrowed it last year, but it gets the job done. Problem is, once word gets around that you own a truck, suddenly everyone becomes your best friend when moving day rolls around. I work construction during the week, so weekends are pretty much my only time to relax. I've got a small apartment and a simple life. Most of my college friends have moved on to bigger cities or gotten married, so I don't hear from them much anymore. That's why I was surprised when I got a message from someone I hadn't talked to in over 2 years. Back in college, she was in my statistics class. We weren't exactly close friends, more like acquaintances who would occasionally study together or grab coffee between classes. She was friendly enough, but we never hung out outside of school stuff. After graduation, we stayed connected on social media, but barely interacted. The occasional like on a post here and there, maybe a happy birthday message once a year. So when she slid into my direct messages on a Tuesday afternoon, I was genuinely surprised. She asked if I was free on Saturday because she needed help moving. She threw in a bunch of exclamation points and called me the best, which immediately felt off. We hadn't spoken in forever, and suddenly, I'm the best. But I figured she was probably desperate and reaching out to anyone who might help. Moving sucks, and I know how stressful it can be when you're doing it alone. I told her I could swing by for a bit to help out. She got super excited and thanked me over and over, calling me a lifesaver. She said she'd text me the address Saturday morning. Guess I should have asked more questions, like what exactly she needed help with, how much stuff she had, or how long she expected it to take. But I was being nice and figured I'd just show up and help however I could for a few hours. Saturday morning came around, and I got the address around 9. It was about 20 minutes from my place. I threw on some old clothes, grabbed a bottle of water, and headed out in my Honda Civic. The Civic's my daily driver, good on gas and reliable for getting around town. The truck stays parked unless I specifically need it for hauling something. I pulled up to this decent-looking apartment complex and found her building. She was standing outside with a few boxes scattered around, checking her phone. When she saw me walking up, her face immediately shifted from relief to confusion. She asked where my truck was. I told her it was at home because she had asked for help, not specifically for the truck. She actually took a step back and looked me up and down like I was wearing a clown costume. Then she asked what good my help was without the truck. That's when it hit me. She didn't want my help, she wanted my truck. She had reached out to me after 2 years of silence, not because she valued our friendship or thought I was particularly strong or handy, but because she remembered I had a pickup truck. I was just a free moving service to her. I told her it was the same energy as asking someone to help paint, then getting mad they didn't bring a ladder. She went quiet after that. I could see the wheels turning in her head, probably trying to figure out how to spin this back on me or convince me to go get the truck. But I wasn't budging. I looked around at what she had. There were maybe 8 or 9 boxes total, none of them particularly large. A couple of lamps, some books, what looked like kitchen stuff, Nothing that actually required a truck. Most of it could have fit in my Civic with the seats folded down, and the rest could have been handled in a second trip. I asked what she wanted me to carry. She pointed half-heartedly at 3 small boxes labeled books and decorations. They were light enough that I could have carried all 3 at once if I wanted to. I picked up one box and started walking toward the building entrance. She complained that I was only taking one box. I explained that I was taking them one at a time so I wouldn't drop anything, and asked which apartment was hers. The whole time she kept sighing dramatically. I made 3 trips for the 3 boxes, which took maybe 10 minutes total. When I came back down, she was on her phone, probably calling someone else. She complained that she couldn't believe this situation and that she had specifically asked me to help her move. I pointed out that I was helping her move since I had just moved 3 boxes and asked what else needed to go up. She said everything else obviously needed to go up, but without my truck, this was going to take all day. I looked at the remaining items. A few more small boxes, a floor lamp, a small side table, and what looked like a decorative mirror. Again, nothing that couldn't fit in a regular car. I told her these boxes would fit in my car and the furniture might take 2 trips, but it was definitely doable. She complained that she didn't have time for multiple trips and needed everything moved in one go. That's when I realized she wasn't just entitled, she was completely unreasonable. She had created this whole scenario in her head where I would show up with my truck, load everything in 15 minutes, and drive it all to her new place in one quick trip. When reality didn't match her expectations, suddenly I was the problem. I wished her good luck with the rest and started walking back to my car. She called after me, something about me being unreliable and a bad friend, but I just kept walking. The whole thing was ridiculous. She had asked for help not for a moving truck rental. If she specifically needed a truck, she should have said so up front. That night, I noticed she had unfollowed me on all social media platforms. Honestly, it was a relief. I realized that our entire friendship had been surface level anyway, and now I knew exactly what she thought of me, not as a person worth knowing, but as a resource to be used when convenient. The funny thing is, if she had been upfront from the beginning and asked nicely, I probably would have brought the truck. I've helped plenty of people move over the years, and I don't mind lending a hand when someone genuinely needs it. But the assumption that I would just automatically bring my truck, combined with her attitude when I didn't read her mind, showed me exactly what kind of person she really was. She had ended up paying for professional movers anyway. Apparently, she went through several other people who also didn't meet her expectations. I wasn't surprised. When you treat people like free services instead of human beings, you tend to burn through relationships pretty quickly. I've been working as a zookeeper for about 3 years now, and dealing with difficult visitors comes with the territory. But nothing prepared me for what happened last Saturday. I thought I'd seen it all until I met Karen and her kid. I started working at the zoo right after college. My degree in animal science didn't guarantee me a glamorous job, but I loved working with animals. The pay wasn't great, but seeing kids light up when they learned about conservation made it worth it. Most families who visit are genuinely excited to learn and respectful of the animals. That morning started like any other. I was doing my rounds in the big cat section, checking on the tigers and making sure their enclosure was clean. The weekend crowd was already building up and I could hear the excited chatter of families approaching. That's when I first noticed them. A woman in her 30s with perfectly styled hair dragging along a boy who looked about 8 years old. The kid was carrying a small backpack that seemed oddly heavy for a zoo visit. I was cleaning the tiger viewing area when I heard the first commotion. The kid asked his mom if he could throw rocks at the tiger. She told him he could do whatever made him happy. I looked over and saw the boy pulling rocks out of his backpack. Actual rocks. Not pebbles, but decent-sized stones that could definitely hurt an animal. I walked over and explained that they couldn't throw anything at the animals because it was dangerous for them and against zoo policy. Karen turned to me like I'd just insulted her entire family. She snapped that her son could do whatever he wanted because she paid good money to come here. I tried to explain that throwing objects could seriously injure the animals and make them aggressive. I pointed to the multiple signs around the enclosure that clearly stated no throwing objects, no feeding animals, and no disturbing the wildlife. Karen dismissed me completely, saying those signs didn't apply to them and that her son was just having fun. Before I could respond, the kid had already hurled a rock at one of the tigers. It hit the fence and bounced back, but the tiger immediately became agitated, pacing and growling. The other visitors started backing away, clearly uncomfortable. I told her that I needed her to stop her son immediately because they were upsetting the animals and other guests. Karen got defensive and yelled at me not to tell her how to parent her child. The boy threw another rock, this time at a different tiger. Both cats were now pacing frantically, their stress levels obviously elevated. Other families with children started moving away from the area. I told her that I would have to ask them to leave this section if they couldn't follow the rules. Karen got even more aggressive, claiming I couldn't make them leave and that she knew her rights. At this point, I radioed for backup from security and my supervisor. The tigers were getting more agitated by the minute, and I was worried about both their well-being and public safety. The kid kept throwing rocks despite my repeated requests to stop. Each impact against the fence made the tigers more aggressive. They were roaring now, which was drawing attention from across the zoo. That's when Karen did something I still can't believe. She pulled out a canister of pepper spray from her purse and declared that these animals were threatening her baby and trying to attack him. I tried to reason with her, explaining that there was a reinforced fence between them and the animals so they couldn't reach her. The fence was built to withstand much more than what these tigers could dish out. It was designed specifically to prevent any contact between animals and visitors. But Karen wasn't listening to reason. She insisted that the animals were being aggressive because they wanted to hurt her son. She actually sprayed the pepper spray through the fence openings, hitting both tigers directly in their faces. The animals immediately started pawing at their eyes, clearly in distress. I'd never been so angry in my life. These tigers were suffering because of her ignorance and cruelty. I shouted at her to stop because she was hurting them. Karen responded that it was good and that they shouldn't have threatened her child. By now, security and my supervisor had arrived, along with what seemed like half the zoo staff. Other visitors were recording everything on their phones. The tigers were in obvious pain and we needed to get veterinary help immediately. The security officer told her to put down the pepper spray and step away from the enclosure. Karen claimed she was defending her family and that the animals were dangerous. My supervisor pointed out that her son had been throwing rocks at the animals, which caused them to become agitated, and then she pepper sprayed them through the fence. Karen denied everything, insisting that wasn't what happened, and that the animals attacked them first. The security officer was looking at the scattered rocks on the ground and the pepper spray canister still in Karen's hand. Several other visitors who had witnessed everything were giving statements to another staff member. One witness told the staff member that they saw the whole thing and that the boy was throwing rocks for 10 minutes before the animals got upset. Another witness confirmed that Karen Pepper sprayed the animals after they were already behind the fence and that they couldn't have touched her kid even if they wanted to. Karen accused everyone of lying and threatened to sue the zoo for having dangerous animals. That's when the police arrived. Someone had called them when they saw Karen Pepper spray the animals. Animal cruelty is a serious crime in our state. The police officer told Karen that they had multiple witnesses and video evidence of her using pepper spray on zoo animals and that she was under arrest for animal cruelty. Karen protested that this was ridiculous and that she was protecting her child. The police officer explained that the animals were secured behind a fence designed to prevent any contact, so there was no threat to her child. When they handcuffed Karen, she kept screaming about her rights and threatening to sue everyone in sight. Her son just stood there, finally quiet now that his mother wasn't encouraging his behavior. The kid quietly asked if he was in trouble too. The police officer told him that he was a minor, so he would be released to another family member, but that throwing rocks at animals was never okay. It turns out Karen had been banned from 2 other zoos in neighboring states for similar incidents. The police found this out when they ran her information. She had a history of letting her kid torment animals and then claiming they were being threatened when staff intervened. The tigers recovered fully after treatment from our veterinarian, though they were shaken up for a few days. Karen ended up pleading guilty to animal cruelty charges and was banned for life from our zoo and several others in the region. She also had to pay a hefty fine and do community service. Her son was placed in his father's custody after the incident. Turns out Dad had been trying to get full custody for months because of Karen's erratic behavior. This incident was exactly the evidence he needed. The whole thing was captured on multiple phones and security cameras. The video went viral online and Karen became internet famous for all the wrong reasons. She is still facing civil lawsuits from animal rights groups. Most of my freelance clients are small businesses and mid-sized companies that need marketing materials but don't have an in-house design team. The work itself is pretty straightforward. Logos, brochures, website graphics, billboard designs, that sort of thing. The challenging part isn't the creative side, it's managing clients who have no idea how the design process actually works. They want everything yesterday but take forever to give feedback. About 8 months ago, I started working with this real estate company. They weren't huge, maybe 50 agents across 3 offices, but they had steady work and paid on time. At first, everything seemed normal. They needed a complete rebrand, new logo, business cards, signage, the whole package. The company owner seemed nice enough during our initial meeting. He was professional, clear about what he wanted, and had reasonable timeline expectations. He introduced me to their project coordinator, who would be my main point of contact. This guy was probably in his early 30s, wore expensive suits, and had this attitude like he was doing everyone a favor just by showing up. Right from the start, getting approvals from him was like pulling teeth. I'd send over concepts and then nothing. Radio silence for days. I'd follow up with a polite email, maybe get a one-word response saying he was reviewing, or just get ignored completely. But here's the thing. Whenever there was any kind of delay, he'd immediately start complaining to anyone who would listen about how I wasn't meeting deadlines, even though the delays were entirely on their end because they wouldn't approve anything. This pattern went on for months. I'd create designs, send them over, wait for feedback that never came, send gentle reminders, and eventually get rushed approvals with last-minute changes that pushed everything back even further. I developed a system where I'd send reminder emails every 2 to 3 days. Nothing pushy, just professional check-ins asking about the status of pending approvals. Most clients actually appreciate this kind of communication. It keeps projects moving and shows I'm on top of things. But this guy clearly had different ideas about how things should work. The breaking point came during their biggest project yet, a series of billboard advertisements for a new development they were promoting. The timeline was tight because they'd already bought the advertising space, and the billboards needed to go up by a specific date to coordinate with their marketing campaign. I submitted the initial concepts on a Monday morning with a note that I'd need approval by Friday to meet their print deadline. Monday passed, Tuesday passed. Wednesday, I sent my usual follow-up email. He replied that they were still reviewing internally and would get back to me soon. Thursday came and went with no response. Friday morning, I sent another reminder explaining that we were now at the absolute deadline for print approval. Nothing. The following Monday, I sent one more email explaining that we'd missed the print deadline and asking how they wanted to proceed. That's when I got the response that changed everything. But instead of responding to me directly, he sent an email to my boss that made my blood boil. He complained that I kept pestering them for updates and said they'd reply when they were ready. He called my constant emails unprofessional and frankly annoying. He told my boss that they hired us to do design work, not project management. I stared at that email for about 10 minutes. My boss forwarded it to me with a question mark, basically asking what was going on. I explained the whole situation to her, how I've been trying to get timely approvals for months, how their delays were affecting project timelines, and how this particular project was now going to miss their advertising deadline because of their lack of response. My boss was understanding but suggested I adjust my approach to keep the client happy. Fine. If they wanted to be left alone, I'd leave them alone. I immediately flagged that email and saved it to a special folder. Then I sent a brief response to the project coordinator telling him I understood and would wait for his team to reach out when ready to proceed. I moved their entire project to on hold status in my system and didn't send another reminder. Not one. Whenever I thought about following up, I'd look at that email again and remind myself that they'd made their preferences very clear. Days turned into weeks. I worked on other projects, took on new clients, and honestly kind of forgot about the real estate company. Until 3 weeks later when my phone started ringing at 8 in the morning. It was the owner from the real estate company. He said we needed to talk immediately about their billboard project. I asked what I could help him with, and he exploded. The designs were supposed to go to print weeks ago, he said. Their advertising window was closing the next day, and nothing had been submitted to the printer. He demanded to know what was going on. I explained that I had submitted the designs for approval almost a month ago and had been waiting for feedback from his project coordinator. He said that was impossible because the coordinator told him I had stopped communicating and abandoned the project. I could hear the panic in his voice. Apparently, they'd invested heavily in this advertising campaign, and missing the billboard deadline would cost them tens of thousands of dollars in wasted ad space. I told him I'd check my records and call him back in 5 minutes. I pulled up everything, the original designs, the approval requests, the reminder emails, and most importantly, that nasty email from their project coordinator. I called the owner back and walked him through the entire timeline. He told me to send him everything, every email, every communication, all of it. 20 minutes later, he called back. His voice had completely changed from panicked to furious. He said he was looking at the email from his project coordinator telling me to stop sending reminders and called it completely unacceptable. He explained that they specifically hired me because of my professionalism and communication. I confirmed that yes, I had that email as well, and I was simply following his coordinator's instructions to stop pestering their team for updates. I didn't even have to sound sarcastic or vindictive. I just stated the facts in the same professional tone I always used. The owner was quiet for a moment. He asked if I could get the designs to print that day if they approved them right away. Unfortunately, I had to tell him no. The printer needed those designs 3 weeks ago to meet his original timeline. I offered to check if they had any rush options available, but warned it would cost significantly more and might still not meet his deadline. He hung up to make some calls. An hour later, I got an email, not from the project coordinator, but from someone new. This person introduced themselves as the new project manager for the real estate company and explained that the previous project coordinator had moved on to other opportunities. They asked me to please feel free to send regular reminders and updates as needed, saying they valued clear communication and timely project management. Translation: they fired him. The new project manager was actually great to work with, professional, responsive, appreciated my communication style. We managed to salvage their advertising campaign by switching to digital billboards, which had more flexible timelines but cost them about 40% more than the original plan. But I wasn't taking any chances. From that point forward, every reminder email I sent included a carbon copy to both the new project manager and their legal department. I also started documenting everything more thoroughly and keeping detailed records of all communications and approval timelines. The company ended up becoming one of my best clients. The new project manager even recommended me to other businesses in their network. Funny how much smoother things go when people actually want to communicate professionally instead of playing power games. 6 months later, I heard that the old project coordinator had landed at another marketing company. Apparently, he got fired from there too after about 3 months for similar communication issues. I'm 28 and work as a marketing coordinator at a tech company. I'm the fun aunt who doesn't have kids of her own but loves spoiling her niece. My sister had her daughter when she was pretty young, and I've tried to be supportive by taking my niece out regularly. Movies, shopping, mini adventures, you name it. The thing is, I don't really have experience with kids beyond her. No younger siblings, never babysat, didn't grow up around little cousins. So when it comes to dealing with teenage attitudes and behavior, I'm pretty much flying blind. My niece just turned 13 a few months ago, and I've been trying to maintain our special aunt-niece bond, even when she is getting older. I take her out every couple of weeks for one-on-one time because I know how important it is for kids to have adults in their lives who aren't their parents. About a month ago, we were at Riverside Park on one of our usual outings. She was on the swings while I sat on the bench nearby, and we were just chatting about random stuff. I mentioned that I was going to a work event with my boyfriend the following weekend. Nothing fancy, just a company dinner. My niece asked what I was going to wear. I told her I'd gotten a really nice dress and asked if she wanted to see it. I pulled out my phone and showed her a picture my boyfriend had taken of me trying it on at home. It was a simple black dress, nothing too revealing or inappropriate, just something professional but nice. She looked at the photo for a few seconds, then made this disgusted face like she'd just smelled something rotten. She told me the dress was really ugly and that I looked fat in it. Then she asked if my boyfriend was going to think it looked bad too. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I'm not even overweight. I'm about 5'6" and wear a size 8. Sure, I'm not stick thin, but I'm healthy and confident in my body. Or at least I was until that moment. I told her that what she said was really hurtful and asked why she would say something like that. She just shrugged and said she was being honest. Like that made it okay. She said it so casually, like she was commenting on the weather. I didn't know how to respond. I just put my phone away and suggested we head home early. The rest of our time together was awkward and quiet. When I dropped her off at my sister's house, I pulled my sister aside and told her what happened. My sister looked genuinely shocked and said that didn't sound like her daughter at all. I explained exactly what had been said and how much it hurt my feelings. My sister promised she would definitely talk to her about it and agreed that it wasn't okay. A few days later, my sister called and said she'd spoken to my niece and that she wanted to come over to apologize. I agreed because I figured maybe she genuinely felt bad and wanted to make things right. They showed up at my apartment that evening. My niece stood there with her arms crossed, rolling her eyes like she'd rather be anywhere else. She mumbled that she was sorry for saying my dress was ugly and that I looked fat. That was it. No eye contact, no explanation of why she said it, no acknowledgement that she understood why it was hurtful. She just rattled off the words like she was reading from a script. I thanked her for apologizing. My sister asked if everything was good now, seeming to think that should be it. But it wasn't good. The apology felt completely forced and insincere. I could tell she didn't actually feel bad about what she'd said. I told them I appreciated that they came over, but I thought we should call it a night. After they left, I decided I needed some space. I didn't reach out to plan our usual outings, and when my sister asked if I wanted to take my niece somewhere, I made polite excuses about being busy with work. Fast forward to Mother's Day weekend. We were all at my mom's house for the usual family gathering. I was helping my mom in the kitchen when my niece approached me and asked when we were going shopping for summer clothes. She reminded me that I had promised we'd go pick out fun stuff together. She was right, I had promised that a few weeks before the park incident. I've been looking forward to it because she was getting to an age where she could start developing her own sense of style, and I thought it would be a fun bonding experience. I told her she probably had plenty of summer clothes already. She started getting upset and said I had promised we would go and that she'd been waiting. She started getting louder, and other family members were starting to notice. She kept repeating that she had said she was sorry, and that meant I had to forgive her. I explained that I knew she had apologized, but just because someone says sorry doesn't mean everything goes back to normal automatically. I told her she had to show the person she hurt that she understood what she did wrong and that she wouldn't do it again. She protested that she hadn't said anything mean since then. I pointed out that it had only been a few weeks and we'd barely spent any time together. I explained that an apology isn't just words, it's about showing you've learned from your mistake. At this point, my mom and sister had come over to see what the commotion was about. My mom asked what was going on, and my sister explained the situation, but she made it sound like I was being unreasonable. She said that my niece had apologized weeks ago, and now I wouldn't take her shopping like I'd promised. She accused me of holding a grudge against a 13-year-old. My mom told me that my niece was just a kid and that kids say things they don't mean sometimes. She said I couldn't expect her to handle conflict like an adult. I tried to explain that I wasn't expecting adult behavior, but I was expecting basic respect. I said what she had said was cruel, and her apology didn't feel genuine at all. My sister asked how long I was going to punish her for one comment, reminding me again that she had said she was sorry. My mom said I was having a conflict with a child at my age and asked if I didn't think that was ridiculous. I felt like I was being ganged up on. Here I was, the one who got hurt, and somehow I was the villain for not immediately accepting a half-hearted apology. I told them I wasn't punishing her, I was just not rewarding bad behavior with shopping trips. My niece started crying and said I was being mean and that she wanted to go shopping. This made my mom and sister look at me like I was the worst person in the world. My sister pointed out that I was making her upset, and I replied that she had been upset when she called me fat too, but apparently that hadn't mattered. My mom said that was enough and that we needed to work this out like adults. I told her I was the only adult in this situation, and that was exactly the problem. I excused myself and went outside to get some air. My mom followed me out a few minutes later. She told me that when I was my niece's age, I had said some pretty hurtful things too, but she hadn't stopped loving me or taking me places. I explained that this wasn't about love, it was about respect and boundaries. She insisted that my niece was only 13 and her brain wasn't fully developed yet, so I couldn't hold her to the same standards I'd hold an adult. I told her I wasn't asking her to be an adult, but I was asking her to understand that words have results, and that a real apology involves more than just saying sorry because someone told you to. The conversation went in circles from there. My mom kept insisting I was overreacting, and I kept trying to explain that this wasn't about the specific words she said, but about the pattern of behavior it represented. The family gathering ended on a tense note, with my sister barely speaking to me and my niece shooting me dirty looks from across the room. Later that week, my sister called me. She said she'd been thinking about what happened on Sunday and that she thought I needed to apologize to my niece. When I asked what exactly I should apologize for, she said for making her feel bad about herself. She told me that my niece had been crying all week saying her aunt didn't love her anymore. I explained that I had never said I didn't love her, but that love doesn't mean accepting disrespectful behavior without results. My sister insisted she was just a child and that children make mistakes. I agreed that children do make mistakes and that they need to learn from them. That's how they become decent adults. She told me I wasn't her parent and it wasn't my job to teach her lessons. I agreed that I wasn't her parent, but pointed out that I was her aunt who used to enjoy spending time with her until she decided it was okay to insult me. My sister said one comment didn't erase years of loving her, and I explained that it wasn't about erasing anything. It was about setting boundaries and expectations for how I wanted to be treated. The conversation ended with my sister hanging up on me. A few days later, my mom called with what she thought was a compromise. She suggested that I take my niece shopping, but that she would come with us for supervision so we could work on rebuilding our relationship. I told her I appreciated her trying to help, but explained that the issue wasn't that I needed supervision around a 13-year-old. The issue was that she had hurt my feelings, given a fake apology, and now everyone expected me to pretend it never happened. My mom asked what my solution was and whether I planned to never spend time with her again. I told her my solution was for my niece to give a real apology where she actually understood what she did wrong and why it was hurtful. Then we could start rebuilding our relationship. When my mom asked what would happen if she didn't, I said I guessed we'd have a different kind of relationship than we used to. It's been 3 weeks since that conversation, and nothing has changed. My niece hasn't reached out to me, and my sister has been giving me the cold shoulder at family events. My mom keeps making comments about how I'm holding grudges and punishing a child. But here's the thing that really bothers me. If I let this slide, what message does that send? That she can say whatever she wants to people, and when she offers a half-hearted apology, everything goes back to normal. That's not how the real world works, and I worry that if she doesn't learn this lesson now, she's going to grow up thinking she can treat people however she wants, without real results. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.